Hello, good evening Chiwempala, good evening Chipata, good evening Chirilabombwe, good evening Kazungula and Mongo, good evening Africa, good evening world. My name is Elias Munsha and I am coming to you live from Calgary, Alberta, from TVBakwetu studios. And we want to give you the chance and opportunity to share this feed as much as possible. We are very aware that it's quite late where you are, but due to unforeseen circumstances, we still had to come slightly late. Today, we are the three of us, and I'll let my co-presenter and co-host, Mr. Noman Chipakupaku, also known as General, to take us through to the next segment of our broadcast. Mr. Noman Chipakupaku, General, welcome to our show today, and please carry on.
Good evening, Chiwempala, as usual. Good evening, my hometown, Chipata. Good evening, Ruangwa. Good evening, Mwandi in the Western Province. Good evening, Korokoso. Good evening, Kabwe. Good evening to my friends in Kafue. To our viewers all over the world, greetings from Scotland. Today, we are very, very privileged to have one of the, as we promised you yesterday, we'll be bringing some of our candidates who are participating in this year's election. And this evening from Chipata, from Luangeni constituency, we are privileged to have a friend, a comrade, and our UPND candidate for Luangeni constituency, Mr. Noel Nkhoma. I think a lot of you viewers, you know Noel very well. He's a banker. He's a postgraduate degree holder from Royal Holloway University here in London in international management and global economics. He worked for Finance Bank Zambia for 23 years, rising to the position of executive director for corporate banking until 2010. In 2012, he founded Better Now finance company and retired in June as board chairman. Noel also sits on various boards and is also a former president of the Economic Association of Zambia, not the Economic Association of Kandolo, but the Economic Association of Zambia. So this evening, we would like to say, Herere Mngoni from Chipata, Herere Mngoni, welcome.
Yele de baba.
How Mngoni?
How baba? How?
But Noel Nkhoma, this young man was brought up in Chipata, Munsha, and he was educated at Mpezeni Primary School. I am a Chipata man. I'm a Chipata resident, but we are in different countries. He's in Canada. I'm in Scotland. Today, we are privileged to have you, Nkhoma, as our first MP, guest MP, before we bring in President HH and probably President Eddie Kalungu himself, if he's very brave enough to come here and join us. So tonight, we've got a number of issues we want to look at. We want to look at your constituency. We also want to look at the debt swap, if you can help us in any way, because you are a banker. And we also have for viewers something very interesting. The Americans were arrested this afternoon, and I'm told the Kamgodi has been closed. And then the other item which we have is the polling staff from ECZ, and who have been told that they have to produce something before they becoming polling staff. They have their polling training as polling staff. We also might have one or two items to bring up, but let's start with our guest tonight. Mr. Noel Nkhoma, I hope I've done some justice in introducing you, Baba. First of all,
more than justice, Baba. I'm an open book.
I know. First of all, you are a banker. You are an international management specialist. business specialist. What has made you go into politics?
Well, I think it's the state that our country finds itself in, where I thought that if I sit on the fence, then I will be basically an accomplice to the degradation that we are seeing in the state of affairs of our country. From the economy, from the governance side, it's something that I could not stomach anymore.
Wow. Noel, it's strange to hear you speak like that, because I have always known you as a banker, as a finance person. So you are saying the economy is bad and the governance is bad. And but some of us who are many miles away, what has really gone wrong with the economy, Noel?
Well, I think it's a serious judgment call on the leadership. We have got I think a leadership not only deficit, but I think a crisis, where we have more or less legalized things which ordinarily must be illegal. We have allowed corruption to take root. We have allowed the state institutions to be compromised. We have also allowed a situation where those that are required to answer before the laws of the land, we have now more or less taken a position as Zambians to more or less glorify them. So we are saying in the UPND that enough is enough. I think let those who desire a better Zambia to stand up and be counted. Because the moment we continue to be observers in the continued erosion of the country's governance systems and structures for the benefit of a minority few clique who are basically contesting in the appropriation of state resources to the exclusion of the majority, then we are saying to ourselves that we have silently agreed for this country to be a failed state, which I've said no to.
Before I go to hand over to Musha, you know, people are saying Eastern Province is the bedroom of PF. And this afternoon, I was listening to one of the most strange interview, Dr. Canisius Banda, who was rumbling on Breeze FM. Is Eastern Province still a bedroom of PF, Noel?
Well, I can tell you from where I stand here that, you see, PF has thrived on compromising. Not only state institutions, but individuals. Compromising them to the extent that they believe that money justifies everything. Now, for Canisius Banda to say what he has said is because of the fact that, because of the poverty that they have unleashed on the Zambians, where they think that every soul has got a price. They can come at an election time and buy those souls in exchange for a vote. Now, there is a limit to how much people can continue to be compromised. And I think at this time around, the voice that we keep hearing as I go into my constituency, where there are no roads, where people are living in abject poverty, and the households are lucky to even have one meal a day, they are saying it is time for change. I totally agree with them for the simple reason that we cannot share poverty, we can only share wealth. And this is why we in the UPND continue to push a message of hope and help, because the moment we allow another just 6 months of PF, then I can promise you that there will be no country left for us to even talk about.
Okay. Now, Noel, I will come back to your constituency and what the plans are of UPND are, what the issues are. I want to hand over to Munsha for his usual lawyer's questioning. He's a lawyer, by the way. So I
Oh,
will
yes,
hand over
I
to
know
Munsha
my
for the
brother.
two questions.
General Mulembe Peshafie. Mr. Nkhoma, thank you for joining us here today. Now, me and Mr. Chipata, we get accused a lot that we are extremely biased people. Sometimes they get to accuse us that we are not economists, we are not bankers, and so we should have no opinion about the current news regarding the debt swap. Now, I'm aware that you have tremendous experience in the banking industry. You have experience as an economist and all this. Help us unpack what is going on. What is this debt swap all about?
Well, first of all, let us, before we even deal with the issue of debt swap, let us interrogate the timing of this debt swap.
Right.
It's a timing, right? This is where, for Chipata, having been being an Easterner, dear Palinkani apa, timing, dear Palinkani, right?
I like it.
Now,
At Nkhoma, at Palinkani apa.
Dear Palinkani apa, muli monse muzinga nkhalire, dear Palinkani apa. The timing. First of all, are you telling me that it's only now that the PF government has realized or woken up to the fact that civil servants are swimming in excessive debt? They are drowning in debt. Is it only now that they have realized that civil servants are surviving or living on Kalova? They have exhausted all the traditional lending channels or avenues or traditional or regulated financial institutions. They have now gone to Kalova.
Yeah.
Some are even defaulting on what you call village banking.
Yeah.
Is it now that they've woken up to that reality? If they're telling me that they're going to do debt swap on or with commercial banks who are not willing per se, they're not willing, but they have gone ahead to even effect deductions without consent from the lender and the borrower. This to me is nothing but a political scam, which is timed to hoodwink the civil servants who they have known that they have fallen out of favor with the current regime to be seen to be a caring government. Now, let me talk as a banker. That was politics.
Okay.
Now, as a banker, what is a debt swap? A debt swap is when one, you have debt as two parties. You owe each other money. You understand? Council Musha owes me money. And I say, because you owe, let me say, you owe me money. You owe me money. Then I also owe you an obligation. You understand?
Right.
Then we agree, the two of us, to say, in exchange or to liquidate my obligation to you, let us cancel out the debt that you owe me and the obligation that I owe you. Are you with me?
All right. Yeah.
Are you with me? Now, what the government has done, they owe civil servants arrears in leave pay, leave pay. They owe what you call various allowances to civil servants, which they have failed to pay and accrued over the years, going into billions. Now they realize that they don't have the money to pay. So what do? They find their own financial institution in the name of the public service microfinance company, one which is not adequately capitalized to be able to absorb the indebtedness the gross indebtedness of these civil servants with all the lenders or the financial institutions. And they are saying to the civil servants, we owe you money in various allowances, you know, hardship allowance and all that sort of stuff. And we are now going to liquidate these allowances that we owe you by settling your debt with commercial banks. Now, first of all, how can a person who is an indebted person motivate to another person who is owed money to a third party who is a bank who is not party to this? So the commercial banks are saying you are not party to these to these contracts. So why don't you let the civil servants be the ones to liquidate this instead of you liquidating? Now, let me tell you what is going to happen here. One is the fact that they are now trying to take away business from the traditional lenders, take it to the public service microfinance company on the pretext of what you call favorable terms. But we know, as a matter of fact, that the public service microfinance company is not sufficiently capitalized to be able to take up this debt. So it is a political scheme, nothing else. Do not be hoodwinked about it. And listen to this. They are saying that it will be executed in 3 months' time. 3 months, you are now motivated now. Why don't you wait for the next parliament to be in session for you to be able to have this scheme of arrangement? Why are you in a hurry to begin to take deductions now when the whole thing can only be concluded in 3 months? Are you seeing? Are you smelling the coffee?
I can smell it right. I can smell it right. I can smell it right.
General, don't go to rats. Otherwise, I'll be in trouble here. Once you go to rats, I'll be in trouble. Please, Mr. Nkhoma, continue.
Yes. So to me, it's something that basically is intended as a sweetener to the civil servants. And the good thing about it is that the majority of the civil servants have rejected it. Now, let me tell you one thing. What the civil servants are asking for is a decent compensation. Civil servants have not had a decent salary raise in the last probably 7 years. Are you with me? The last raise they had as civil servants when inflation was trending around 6%. Inflation is now 24%. Which means the civil servants have been shortchanged, like the many or the majority of Zambians. So the government, instead of coming out clean to say, we are going to raise your salaries, they can't do that because they don't have the money. This debt swap, the net gain to the civil servants is only 400 kwacha to the most. Now, what does 400 translate to? 400 kwacha translates to maybe $15. Are we being serious? That is a net gain on their take-home pay, about $15. So when we are talking of a country where the inflation is now going towards 30, so it doesn't make sense. It's ridiculous, to say the least.
Now, I think something caught me there, because when you said that the government owes the civil servants money, and the civil servants, what the civil servants are looking for is a decent pay.
Absolutely.
I think I could, as you were saying that, I could feel it. And I know that what you are saying is out of experience and deep, deep care and concern for the civil servants.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All they are failing to do is to give civil servants a decent pay. Mind you, the loan obligation threshold for civil servants is 40%. Almost 70% of the civil servants have breached that threshold. Others are going with negative salaries. Mind you, there's what you call traditional borrowing and untraditional borrowing. Now, how much are they going to go to the village banks and say, how much do the civil servants owe you? We also refinance. Are they going to go to the loan sharks on Cairo Road and do the same?
Exactly.
If they have to give a relief to the civil servants, let them call out even the village banking and the loan sharks to say we want to pay everything zero, we start afresh. They know it's not possible.
Nkhoma Baba, you've pointed out 3 important things here. Inflation is going now to about 25%, 30%.
Yes. Yes.
My research is that the average civil servant is getting 5,000 kwacha per month, roughly.
Yes. Yes.
Some of them are getting less than 5,000, and that's nothing. If inflation is at 25, and they get the bread basket is 8,500. Basically, all the civil servants are living in poverty. That's a fact.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, abject poverty. Abject poverty.
Exactly. And you also mentioned one thing: the so-called microfinance company of the government. Where is this money from? It's not liquid enough.
No. So what they will do, what I suspect they will do, is that they'll just pass book entries. They'll use Bank of Zambia to credit, right? To pass a book entry and credit the commercial banks accounts at Bank of Zambia. And they, in turn, pass the debit into public service microfinance company through the Ministry of Finance. But it's all a book entry.
It's a book entry.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a book entry.
Yeah.
One, they are going to what they are likely to do is they are now encouraging reckless borrowing by civil servants, because civil servants can now contract debt, knowing that come an election, government is going to come to their rescue. It's extremely dangerous, right? Precedent to set, because it is going to now manifest what you call reckless borrowing on civil servants, because they know that they can hold government at ransom during elections and say, we have borrowed, can you now liquidate if you want our vote? That is what they're trying to do.
But what you are also saying is that actually government does not have that kind of resources to liquidate.
No. First of all, the budget deficit itself is about 15–16%.
Exactly.
You have defaulted not only on international debt, on domestic debt. You have not paid your suppliers, right? Your domestic debt even exceeds your gross domestic product.
Yeah.
So now you haven't got money to even pay debt, but you want to pay someone else's debt. Are you being serious?
Baba Nkhoma, I wanted you to be here for your constituency, but we knew that because you are an economist, you are a banker, we've been telling our viewers that this government, we call it a government of Kelenkas. This is not a debt swap, it's a debt trap. Because I'm not a banker, but I know that I've been dealing with the teachers union for years, and I know that over 80% of the teachers in Zambia, especially from the National Teachers Union, are in serious debt. So,
absolutely.
So we are very, very glad that you have clarified and you have actually confirmed what we have been saying. Now, Musha, let's go to his constituency.
Now, I think before we even go to the constituency, there is something more that we need to dig a little bit deeper as far as the debt is concerned. I want it to be very clear, Mr. Nkhoma, that what government owes the civil servants is a lot of money, and government must pay the civil servants. Is that your position?
Why don't you just pay them? First of all, council, senior council, are you going to say to me, I am an independent person, I'm an employee of government. Right. Are you going to tell me that I am incapable or incompetent to manage my own state of affairs, but government should manage them for me? Is that what you're telling me? All government should do is that if you owe the civil servants money in allowances, pay them. Just pay them. Don't go to their debt. The debt is a personal issue. It's a personal contract with the commercial banks. Yeah. How they deal or how they deploy, or in other ways, how they use that money which you owe them is their business. If you owe Noel Nkhoma 10 million in allowances and arrears, pay me. I'll make a decision whether I want to pay my debt or not.
Now, I want to listen in Nkhoma, but I want it in Ngoni, in the Chipata language. How do you say at pay?
Ngati boma ina chikwerete. Ina chikwerete. Vilani chikwerete. Mwati nizisebenza ndalama zangu. Nichozivaneka nichisisi nchangu. Osati kuniuja. Mwati nikosa nchira ndalama zangu. Balipireni bantu.
Balipireni.
Lipirani chikwerete.
Mwafushiratu baba Nkhoma, mwafushiratu. Iboma ina
Depalinkani baba hapa. Depalinkani hapa.
Depalinkani namba nani na baba.
Now the other dangerous thing is the Secretary to Cabinet has issued a directive banning all the heads of department from issuing letters of recommendation for people that might want to go to traditional lending institutions for 3 months. Which means if a civil servant who is not in debt wants to contract a few debts, in these 3 months, the government is saying they can't do that. Now, I think that is dangerous because then it leaves them vulnerable to go to loan sharks. What do you think?
Absolutely. So you're not resolving a problem. You're creating a bigger problem. And that is why I said government should take a holistic position. Right? And how do you do it? You simply say, can you declare your total debt? Whether it's a loan shark, whether it's a village bank, so that if it's going to be a position of relief, let it be total relief.
Right.
Total relief. Right? You cannot pay 40% and leave 60%, which is undisclosed. No. So if the government is offering a moratorium, let it be a moratorium on total debt. But it should be willing lender, willing borrower.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you cannot force to liquidate someone's debt who is not willing. Simply because you owe the money, because that is tantamount to blackmail. It's tantamount to blackmail.
Yeah.
Why not pay me? And I know what I want to do. If I want to go and blow it at the casino, let me do that.
Okay. Now, here's another business question. Now, we have so many questions for you, Mr. Nkhoma. Muzadawa Mani. Kudawa? General, is it Kudawa? We have a lot of questions, you'll be shocked. Okay, now here's another one. Now, I do understand that these microfinancing companies, they're just starting out. And they've got a very good business model. It's premised on an economy growing. So because when an economy grows, of course, credit is available in an economy. Now, what impact do you foresee this parastatal that government has created will have on the growth of these small upcoming microfinance companies?
Yeah, first of all, Council, one thing you should understand about what drives an economy is what you call consumption, right? The economy must produce goods and services where the population must be able to consume, right? And consumption is driven by you and me, being the consumers. Now, if the banking services, which is a key driver of economic growth, if the demand for credit is subdued, then basically this consumption side is going to suffer. Yeah, it is going to suffer. So I don't understand the kind of economics this government wants to practice, which is going to throttle consumption demand. Because mind you,
it's from Russia.
Yeah. So the only way our economy can grow is that let us push consumption. There should be sufficient demand for the by the consumers for the economy to grow. Now, if credit is monopolized by one entity, what happens is that those microfinance companies I've talked about, they will die before they are born.
Yeah.
What happens is that you are now strangling your financial sector. And the moment you strangle your financial sector, which basically means that there will be no sufficient liquidity in the market to be able to support consumption and demand for goods and services. Are you with me?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, let us look at the contribution of the financial sector to the GDP.
Yeah.
It's not a small amount. It's not a small figure. You are talking of something closer to 20%.
Yeah, it's a big sector.
Now,
a big sector.
It's huge. That's huge.
It's a big sector.
Mr. Nkhoma, have we grown? Has that grown to where it's at 20%? What was it previously?
Well, it has been growing incrementally year by year, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But because of the demand for consumer credit, that is what has pushed it to the levels we're having now. Now, government is trying to say we want to curtail consumer credit. Then, in the absence of consumer credit, how are those banks going to thrive? You are going to see banks doing what? Downsizing. Downsizing, what comes with it? Redundancies. Redundancies means that you will now be collecting less tax from pay as you earn, from corporate tax. Why? Because banks' profitability will be compromised. So let us look at it from the net effect of this action or intervention the government is trying to do.
And not only that,
they're creating a bigger problem.
Not only that, if they do that, the interest rates will shoot up.
Absolutely.
And that's not good for the economy. So,
no.
so they're basically shooting themselves in the foot.
In the foot. But why? For political expediency.
Yeah.
That is the only justification.
Yeah, Musha, I think you have been very, very clear, Noel. Let's give you the chance to talk about your constituency. And for me, as a person who grew up in Chipata, who's very, very keen about Eastern Province, it's Lwangeni constituency. Am I right?
Yeah, Lwangeni, that's right.
Now, before you go to the constituency, Mr. Nkhoma, I need to, General Chipata did mention, so my father was a teacher at Hillside Secondary School and St. Monica's. And I was very young, but I have some memories of what used to happen. The sisters at the convent would come to pick him up from Hillside in order to go and teach. You know what he was teaching? French.
Yes.
And so I do have very good memories of Chipata, very wonderful place. I used to speak very deep. I don't know whether it's Ngoni or Chewa. I know you people, Ngoni and Chewas, you've got your own politics. But I don't know what language I was speaking. But it was very deep, like Kachamba. When I try a little bit of Nyanja here, General Chipata laughs at me completely. I get embarrassed. So I've stopped using any Chewa, any Ngoni, any Nyanja, because I don't want to sound like a Kandolo. So Chipata is very close. So where is Lwangeni? Is it near where Hillside is? Is it near Mpezeni Park? No?
Well, Lwangeni shares a border with the Katete. As you enter from Katete going into Chipata, right after the bridge, then it goes right predominantly on the right side of the road, right up to Mwami.
Up to Mwami border.
Mwami border with Malawi.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Then on the other side, we share the boundaries with the Vubwi and Chadiza.
Yeah.
And Chipata Central.
They split.
Then also on the western direction.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead, Nkhoma.
We share the border with Kasenengwa.
Yeah. Yeah.
We share also the border with Kasenengwa. So
what
this
is
is basically
what is the population? What is the population of the constituency? How many voters are in the constituency?
Well, voters, about 69,000 registered voters.
Okay, and in that constituency, Nkhoma, what is the what is the, I know that Lwangeni is an agricultural area. Is that the main industry in the constituency? What do you produce in the constituency? Go ahead.
Yes, we are predominantly peasant farmers. In maize production, soya, sunflower now, and a bit of cotton, tobacco. Then you have also got a lot of what you call poultry farming, which has now taken root, and also cattle rearing. These are the main economic activities.
How many schools and how many hospitals do you have, and what is the situation with the infrastructure, road infrastructure?
Well, in terms of schools, we have not seen much growth, because in terms of high schools, we have got less than 3 in the entire constituency. But in terms of what you call basic schools, I think those are dotted almost in all the 6 wards of Lwangeni. We have got, I think, quite a number. But I think on the healthy sector side, we don't have a hospital, but we have got many hospitals or clinics, which have also taken a beating, in the sense that the population has grown. Then we've got so many healthy challenges, but the infrastructure side, on the hospital as well as on the education.
Yeah, are you there, Noel? Okay, our viewers, Lwangeni, we're waiting for Noel to come back. Lwangeni is mainly an agricultural constituency. I'm saying that because I've got a little field there in this constituency, and I've got it's a very interesting constituency, mainly rural, but they produce a lot of agricultural stuff, a lot of maize, a lot of sunflower, and basically they are an agricultural constituency. The biggest problem with Lwangeni, I think, is the road network, schools, and hospitals. Because it's an area which I know very well. I've got property in the area, so I know the area very, very well. And I really wanted to hear, Musha, what his plans for the constituency are.
Yeah,
that's what
I don't think. Yeah, and I'm quite amazed at the quality of the network, because we spoke for almost 35 minutes, and network was superb. I think that was pretty good. But it is as expected. I think maybe he fell out of good network there. But it's amazing. He is so knowledgeable about these things. I think if Lwangeni were to elect him as an MP, that would be great. So we can't hesitate here and call upon the people of Lwangeni that Mr. Noel Nkhoma would be a great guy to be your MP.
Well, Noel Nkhoma, I think for me, I'm biased. I've known Noel Nkhoma for a long time. He was my banker, and when it was Finance Bank, before Atlas Mara took over, so I know him very well. He's a very knowledgeable person. And I think UPND got a very, very good candidate. I really wanted to find out who the PF candidate was.
Okay, so who was the MP for Lwangeni, the previous MP?
The Lwangeni has been held by a number of people, you know, the problem is that I've been in Scotland for a long time, but it has been held by a lot of different people every time.
Who is the immediate past? Is it where? No, it's. Who was there? Rose Piri?
Not Rose Piri. Rose Piri, I think, was in Katete. I'm not sure. It's really difficult that we have not had the chance really to continue with him. Because for me, I remember the ULIP Lwangen MPs and then the MMD MPs. But for PF, I'm not sure who the right person, the current, the former MP was. But for UPND, I think they got a very good candidate, a very, very good candidate. My interest really was to try and find out, Musha, whether what his plans for the agriculture in the area is. The schools, they've got no hospital, and I know very well that the road infrastructure is terrible.
All right.
And
so
really
we've got an answer that it was Honorable Charles Zulu.
Charles Zulu, that's the one who was failing to speak in Parliament, I think.
Oh, that's the one. Okay, so then that should be an easy pickup for UPND.
For UPND. And I don't know who the candidate is now, but the previous MP was definitely somebody who couldn't even speak in Parliament. Okay, now Musha, I think while we're waiting for Noel, do you want us to make progress?
Yes, please. Let's do that.
Okay, today the DEC, which is the Drug Enforcement Commission, arrested the Americans today, Musha.
Now, I need us to revisit our conversation about the Americans. You had insisted that police had failed to take control of Kamgodi. My opinion was we did not need to bring in the army. We had sufficient resources within the police to get rid of the situation. And I think I have been justified.
No, you're not justified, Musha. You don't know what has really caused for the Americans to be arrested. They are arrested by the DEC, who are not the police, because they are fighting a lady called Tasira Chemtengo Lungu Mwansa. So because they are not supporting her,
really,
then she decided that the DEC should go on them because they've been selling chamber, they've been selling things, they've been doing a lot of things. The DEC says a lot of illegal things have been happening there. They've even found dangerous weapons. So we don't know what these dangerous weapons are. And the thing is, they've also confiscated the vehicle to the state because they found him with chamber. Is it chamber or other drugs?
Now, okay. You know what? I do believe that gentleman is a dangerous. He was leading a militia. That yes, I know. He was leading a militia. But I don't understand whether he would be that reckless as to actually be dealing in physical drugs, like Ichamba, Innocent Kalimanshi. I don't know why I'm finding difficult to believe that.
They had gone. They had gone to the extent that they thought they were beyond the police. They were beyond anybody. Nobody could control them. Right. There have been a lot of reports coming from that place. And the problem is that they've been taking advantage of the PF. There was a fight between Kalimanshi, the American, with Ikamba. Right. There was a fight between Kalimanshi and Stephen Kampiongo.
Right.
And these two failed to deal with him. The only time they dealt with him was on the 1st of May, when he tried to go to the secretariat and he was clobbered. Do you remember?
Right.
They damaged his car. He took the people who beat him to court. The PF withdrew this case. They told him to apologize and bought him a brand new vehicle.
And he continued and went and fought Tasila Chimtengo Forest.
Yes, he has been fighting Tasila for the past few weeks, and Tasila has brought in big guns to support her. I won't mention some of these big guns. They've been campaigning. Even last night they were campaigning for her, and they decide to use the Drug Enforcement Agency. How did they know that the Americans are using drugs? Musha, reverse back to what Antonio said 2-3 days ago. UPND has got 60,000 militia. It's not true. It was a cover-up.
Right.
The real militia are the PF militia led by Kalimanshi and many other people.
Right.
And now it's the Drug Enforcement Commission taking the lead, not the police. Not the police.
Right.
The police, in short, are afraid. They've been afraid of handling Kalimanshi. So the DEC has moved in, I think, to try and protect Tasila, Chimtengo, Lungu Mwasa, because she has been, in trouble because of the Americans. So
now,
what was
the political plan behind the PF Chawama militia undermining Miss Tasila Lungu?
The issue here is not known. It looks like they don't support her candidature. It looks like they supported somebody else and they're not happy with that. Or my other feeling is that probably they wanted money from Tasila and she's saying no, and as a result, there's a fight. So we don't know what the situation is. But a few weeks ago, is it 2 weeks ago? Remember,
Right.
Kalimanshi was being paraded by Edith Nawakwi, being praised as a good son.
Right.
So if
you are even putting it very mildly, General, because what we saw was that Miss Edith Nawakwi was actually dancing.
Yes, she was dancing for Kalimanshi.
Innocent Kalimanshi.
Yeah. What I think is that she must have smoked before she danced, because you never know, because the way she's behaving these days, the way that lady is behaving these days, you never know she's been smoking with Kalimanshi.
General, are you saying that he supplied her with something that she smoked? General,
you never know. Listen to this lady speak. Look at the way she's behaving. I think she has been doing something with how can a lady, former Minister of Finance, dance for Kalimanshi? Does it make sense to you? Unless you smoked.
Nakana. This is very
that's what I think, because a normal British well-qualified energy economist from London, trained former finance minister, cannot lower herself and start dancing with a riffraff like Kalimanshi.
No,
unless she tried it as well. So you never know what's happening.
Now, General, the DEC are not saying that it was just marijuana. They actually added something. It was high-grade cannabis. I don't even know the difference, General. Do you know the difference between ordinary cannabis and high-grade cannabis? What makes it more high-grade?
Munsha, for me, I don't smoke. I've never smoked, and I don't like smoke. But I had soldiers who smoked, who would smoke. But in the army, you'd be fired for doing that, okay? And when they say high-grade cannabis, and which means the guy should be locked up, and which means they were found in possession of. And to make it worse, a 13-year-old child found smoking in the camp.
Okay. Now, General, I need to let you know of my honest opinion about our drug laws. Honestly, I'm a lawyer, but I'm also an advocate for common sense approach to some of these issues. If Kalimanshi was indeed found with a lot of high-grade cannabis and he was selling, quite all right. I have no issues with that. They can lock him up. But if it is locking up a person for holding and they take them in jail until and it's non-bailable. I think that is not fair. I think we need to reform that aspect of the law, because our prisons cannot be filled with people who were arrested because bari kwetaka mshanga ka chamba.
But for me, Musha, for me, Musha, I am saying to thank God that Kalimanshi has been arrested 19 days before elections, because with those weapons, we don't know what they are, and those drugs, whether high-grade chamba or whatever it is, can you imagine the havoc he was going to cause during election?
Yeah.
And 23 of them have been arrested, which means a lot of them have run away, because a lot of them are in this militia. Can you imagine the havoc which they could have caused a few days before elections, on the day of the elections itself?
Yeah. So
for me, that's the good thing, is that it has happened. Thank you so much, Tasila Chimtengo, for dealing with this problem. She has done a good job. I think she's done a very good job.
Yeah, for the first time ever, time, TVBakwetu is saying thank you to Mr. Sila. Now, General, sometimes people misunderstand us. When we are talking about Chimtengo, we are not trying to be unfair to Mr. Sila. All we are referring to is the fact that Mr. Sila Lungu went to what is known as Chimtengo Forest in Eastern Province, not very far from Mr. Noel Nkhoma's constituency, and fenced off.
It's very far. It's very far.
Oh.
To correct you.
One place.
No, Musha. I am the man from Chipata. Chimtengo Forest is in Sinda.
Okay.
Petauke, Sinda, and then you continue to Katete, and then you go to Chipata. So
you like forgetting Ichilafi. So now what we try to do is to associate certain scandals with certain people so that Muikalava when voting. So Mr. Sila Lungu went to Chimtengo Forest, took a fence. It's a government forest. Hello, if you remember, it's not us who made up this thing. It was Ba Mwanaka Unda, Ba Panji, Kaneo Panji. Is it General Panji? Kaneo Panji is the one who complained to the government technocrats. Kuno na tusanga fence around Chimtengo Forest. Elo ngatwai pushati mbana nbabikira pa fence avena mushi. They said ukwebati nitasira lungu abikire ko fence, and Panji Kaunda decided to write the technocrats at the Ministry of Lands. That is where the name comes from.
Exactly. So for me, I'm saying congratulations to her for the first time for taking action to stop more people being harassed, for closing Kamgodi, and for having the American put in arrested. I only hope that case will not be withdrawn, because PF is very good at withdrawing cases. Right. They'll suddenly say DEC has no evidence, and that will be the end of the story, because we know how they behave. Musha, can we move on?
Yes.
DEC advertised for positions of poll staff.
We have 8 minutes.
Go ahead, Musha.
I'm saying we have 8 minutes. I'm just reminding you, Jen.
Yeah, okay. They agreed that they're going to have advertised for poll staff.
Jen, sorry, I'm trying to interrupt you. Sorry, I don't need to interrupt you, but I know that some people are asking about stars. So please send the stars to TVBakwetu. I see a lot of these questions, and I keep promising you that we are going to have time to explain this, but I think figure it out. You are on Facebook, so figure it out and then send us stars. How to create these accounts, but
no, let me explain. No, the stars are very, very easy. On your Facebook page, there is what do they say, share. On the left is share. On the right-hand side, there are stars. There are those, the heart, and all these things, the thumb up. So when you click the stars, you will either get free stars from Facebook, or you will buy stars using your own card, using PayPal, and send them to us. That's what happens. But if you're lucky with Facebook and you are a new Facebook user, they'll give you free stars. Give them to us. That would be fantastic. So Musha,
yes.
So EasyGate advertised the poll staff. Now they've just announced that the poll staff have been selected, and they'll start training them next week on Tuesday. Condition is that you come with your NRC from grade 12 and above, but you must come with a COVID certificate. Okay. And this COVID certificate costs 1,500 kwacha. And these people who have applied to be polling staff are going to be paid 2,000 for the job on that day. Now they have to pay 1,500 to get the COVID certificate. They have to go and get trained, and then they are going to wait for 500. And How many of these people who have done grade 12 can afford 1,500 today?
Oh no. So then that leaves the system up to what? To corruption?
What is going to happen, Musha, is that PF is going to pay for their own polling agents who will go and they will pay for them and they will be their polling agents. These are the people who will be refusing to stamp the the ballot papers.
Okay, General, I need clarity here. Are these poll workers or they are agents of political parties? What are they?
No, these are the ones when you go into the polling station.
Right.
There's a returning officer, and these are the people. Then these polling staff are the ones who sit on the desk giving you the ballot paper and telling you where to go and vote.
And those mostly like council workers, teachers?
So, no, the returning officers normally are teachers.
Okay.
But the assistants are the ones. So can you imagine if PF has got all these teachers who have been recruited by PF are going to be the returning officers, and then they're going to pay 1,000 for this polling staff. These are the same people who might go to Dundumwezi and say, don't stamp the polling papers. Give them the polling paper, but don't stamp it.
Right. So now, what are we telling ECZ, General? Because ECZ is listening to us.
We are telling ECZ, first of all, get rid of this 1,500 because people can't. No, anybody who's not working in Zambia can't find 1,500. Two, you are risking opening this to corruption especially by PF, because PF has been paying 4.3 million kwacha for billboards from the friends of PF. What can stop the friends of PF, the businessmen and the Guptas of Zambia, to pay for all the polling staff throughout the country?
Okay, you mentioned that they'll be receiving $2,000 kwacha. Are you clear about that? 2,000?
Yes, I'm very clear.
Per day between now and election day, or what?
No, that's what they will get on the election day.
Okay.
That's what they will get on the actual election day.
Okay. I think that's
unless they're paid travel allowances and other, but on the day of voting they'll get 2,500 kwacha.
So with a COVID test, and there are free COVID tests in Zambia?
That's the problem. There are no free COVID tests. Even if you get a free COVID test, you need a certificate. And a free COVID certificate, you have to pay 1,500. It's crazy.
So we are calling upon the government either to...
No, not government, ECZ.
No, but government is the owner of all these things. It's government creating confusion. Why can't they just have free COVID tests? But why do they need COVID tests, for goodness sake, between now and election day?
That's one way of ECZ making money or somebody making money. But look, Musha, and our viewers, ECZ created problems with NRCs. ECZ created problems with the voters register. ECZ created with the verifying register. ECZ is creating problems at every stage.
Yeah.
Now the last stage with polling staff, they are making it difficult.
Right.
Now, can you imagine if you are from grade 12 and you think this is the only chance for you to get some experience at ECZ, and they're asking you to pay 1,500?
This is going to be tough. General, today we've had Mr. Noel Nkhoma. Thank you for connecting TVBakwetu to Mr. Nkhoma. You are the link between TVBakwetu and all these great guys in Zambia. So we appreciate that. General, I want you to know that all of our listeners, they appreciate you a lot.
Thank you so much, Munchan. Thank you so much to our viewers. I can promise you that tomorrow we're having Beauty Piri, who is the daughter to the late Gava. She is standing in Chipata. I'm not sure which constituency. I can tell you. She'll be joining us tomorrow. And we'll try to get another candidate from the north. We'll try and bring 2 MPs per day if we can. If the PF MPs are ready, we'll bring them in.
Yes. Now,
why are we giving chance to UPND? Because PF MPs have got ZMBC covering them,
right.
and they've got money. These MPs don't have money, especially this Beauty Piri, because UPND had an MP who died a few weeks ago. She's only had about 40 days to campaign.
Right. Okay.
But she used to work for the Bank of Zambia. She's another smart cookie. She will be joining us tomorrow. So otherwise, thank you so much, Musha. And it has been a lovely day to have. I just wish we could continue with Noel. He knows his stuff.
He knows his stuff, and he has explained to us very clearly things that we were telling you as the people of Zambia, that this debt swap is a Kelenka debt swap. We've got to go now. Thank you very much for joining us today. This has been TVBakwetu presentation with me, Elias Munsha, as well as my co-presenter, Mr. Noman Chipakupaku. I'm in Calgary, Alberta. He is in Scotland. Thank you for joining us today. God bless you, and God bless our country.
Good night from Scotland.
And thank you for the stars.